Now it's back on.
Yep.
Alright, clear bottom floor.
Go.
On this side. We got a door.
Yep. Door left. Come to me.
Yep, moving up. On you.
Almost when we open.
Good call.
Looks clear.
Yep.
Go, go.
Nothing right.
Loading.
Killed him.
Set. Watch that door.
Going. Right clear. Bomb might be around this wall. I know you want to get into that.
Loading.
Yep.
Guys on the second floor.
Kill the guy on our right.
I'm swinging around. On me. Let's go.
Yep.
Hey, time for something completely different. Ah, why is it so loud? Today, I'm going to get into a review of Zero Hour, my thoughts and impressions on this game. Zero Hour is an early access tactical shooter, kind of aimed to capture some of that early SWAT nostalgia, mixed in with maybe a little bit of Rainbow Six. The older Rainbow Sixes, not the arcadey headshot simulator aimed at recreating the rage and salt of League of Legends in a shooter environment. I played this game twice, once in early 2021, and then again in the May update. I'll focus my review around the most recent iteration because there were a lot of updates, a lot of things changed. I'll hit up an overview of this game and then I'll kind of get into my opinion, so you can have an idea of roughly what this game is about if you haven't played it yet. This game is very obviously a tactical mil-sim type shooter with emphasis on mimicking, I guess, SWAT? I'm not really sure. Honestly, it seems like you're a modern soldier doing door kicking in urban environments, but yeah, it's a bit weird. You get to play up in a co-op setting as you pretend to be SAS badasses in a variety of what appears to be Middle Eastern or like Southeast Asian settings. You get an acceptable amount of weapons to choose from, and some moderate customization of loadouts. It's a good start, early access. They seem to be adding to it regularly, though there are very obviously some objectively good and bad weapons, with mainly the 5.56 AR and the 308 SCAR being the dominant weapons, and everything else just kind of being stuff you pick for fun in nostalgia regions. And then there's the shotgun, which is like a blunderbuss and shoots Nerf rounds with the recoil of a naval gun.
Dude, I don't know what the game developers had against shotguns, but like...
These are bad. Like, shotguns are pretty bad, but these are,
But like... These are excessive.
Another cool aspect is a lot of the modern first-person shooter aspects. For example, when you wear night vision goggles, instead of passively aiming through an optic, which is almost never done nowadays, you aim via the laser, which is pretty cool, right? It adds a certain dynamic to using night vision. Reloading, which is a big part of how a gun feels, is done quite well, with emergency reloads providing a unique, rapid, and almost frantic animation as you try to drop that mag and slam in a new one ASAP to get back in the fight. Retention reloads are cool too, or TAC reloads, with an adorable twist, so to speak, of you hearing Velcro being undone as you retain your previous mag for future usage.
how much I got? 16 rounds, that's fine, right?
Oh, that's totally fine. You're big chillin'.
You can also force an emergency reload by double tapping R. This allows you to keep your tempo up and just discard your partial, say it's down to like sub 10 rounds, and gets you back in the fight ASAP. Finally, with a feature that all non-cumulative reload games should have, an ability to track the status of all your mags in an intuitive fashion instead of having to go into an inventory. You also get some accessories, cameras, breaching charges, you know, the usual. You also get grenades and flashbangs. But since Twitch chat was accusing me of not discriminating with my fire, I stayed away from the grenade for the most part. I wouldn't really call this weapon system bare bones, but it's pretty close to being bare bones. Really not helped by the gameplay elements, which generally kind of hamstring you when using a very specific loadout. We'll get around to that, but once again, it's an early access game. I can kind of understand where they're coming from here. Nitpicking mode. Dude, check out these names. Vertex, Digicon. These obviously are meant to be Vortex and Trichicon. And why are these elite operators using airsoft tier red dots? This thing's like a BSA optic, I think. And this is 100% a Bushnell TR-25, which literally doesn't even hold zero on airsoft guns. Oh, God. It's like they went on Amazon to build this game. The actual gameplay loop is fairly simple. I didn't do any multiplayer because no one's playing on multiplayer. But the levels have a point system, and you need a certain amount of points to get on to the next level. This game's fairly cheap, so you get a lot of your enjoyment about, doing a new level, learning the ins and the outs, and then clearing it. Because there's a point system, you're encouraged to not only complete the level, but actually do well on the level. What is this point system? Basically, you're accountable for your shots, and that's about it. You drop a hostage, mission failed. Shoot a suspect before he shows violent intent, penalty. Shoot a friend in the back, penalty. Blow up an IED, penalty. And you're also dead, but penalty. There's a lot of instances of this throughout the level, so you'll be on your toes trying to avoid these penalties, because nothing is more frustrating than clearing a level, completing all the objectives, but being told you were a bad boy because you shot too many people in the face. Yeah. So, not only are you encouraged to do the objectives, but you're encouraged to do it cleanly, meaning you'll be back on some of these levels, which gives you not only replay value, but forced replay value, which is a little less nice. Each level is moderately unique, we'll just say. I think visually they're all decently distinctive, but due to the graphical system and the fact that all of these houses are just these gargantuan complexes, all the levels do sort of kind of converge on a similar type feeling, though there is some variety, and they're adding more, so we'll give them the benefit of doubt once again. Aside from some crazy lunatics, all your enemies seem to be Middle Eastern descent. The Allah snack bar-esque personality type. We'll leave it at that. As mentioned, each level is large and chunky, meaning most of your missions will be about 10 to 15 minutes if you run it clean. But if you die, and you probably will die, or you want to do a rerun, you can kind of expect about an hour per level, meaning you can get about a good 10 hours out of this game if you just want to keep it fresh. The levels are, we'll say, decently satisfying. They're very, very obviously designed to encourage breaching, right? It's just room and then room and then room, and each room is designed slightly differently, such that you're going to be kind of practicing a lot of room clearing tactics, if that makes sense. When the AI is firing on all cylinders, it'll force you to play very tactically. You gotta play smart, you gotta go through the doors properly, you gotta watch your thresholds, and you even have to check under beds and structures, because these guys like to hide under those, and they will shoot you in the ankles. The level is also designed fluidly, and almost to the point of ridiculousness. Like, real houses aren't set up like this, but it's a video game, we can look the other way for a bit. You're forced to do not only limited or dynamic entry, to problem solve different floor layout types. You're forced to make judgment calls on the fly, and you 100% need to understand basic room clearing tactics. You can play this hard and fast, and we've done a couple levels where we just go through it COD style with Twitch reflexes. It works, but chances are one dude's going to be sitting in a corner that you didn't fully clear and just teach you why points of domination are a thing as it mows down everyone, because you die fast in this game, maybe 1 or 2 bullets. So ultimately, you kind of have to play this game with a tactical eye. Otherwise, your consistency in clearing levels is going to be really low, and you're going to get frustrated fast. There are very few games that have this, and I must commend Zero Hour for that. Alright, on to the opinion. I'll be blunt here. I think this game shows promise, and I'm really excited for a game of this type, but as it stands, it has way too many issues for me to enjoy this game for more than 1 hour stints. And even then, I feel the game is quickly losing its appeal for me for any long-term playing. I'll probably only show up for patches. This boils down to two aspects. Number one, this is more understandable, but bugs. There's so many instances of assets failing to load in, invisible AI shooting through themselves like their gun is pointed in a different direction, snap shooting you instantly like with inhuman reflexes, so on and so forth. Because shoot no shoot is a big deal in this game, having AI that don't play by the rules is weird. Finally, this game seems very unpolished, with a lot of AI not understanding combat is happening even though they're just one room over. A lot of this has to do with the suppressor issue that I'll get into in a second. But it's really frustrating to lose a level, or not even lose a level, but get penalties, right? You hear that stupid brr noise when you get the penalty.
Collecting weapons.
Yeah. Alright, on me.
Yeah, I'm just on the other door. Go. Second floor.
How? How is this illegal use of force? We're in a gunfight.
Because of basically no reason at all. You're in the middle of a gunfight, but because an AI wanders into the room and doesn't realize it's going on, and you shoot him because he hasn't dropped his gun, even though there are bullets flying everywhere, and you get a penalty, it's just immersion breaking, and it's just not fun. You very obviously know you're in a game when you play this game because there's constantly stuff like this happening. Once again, this isn't really a deal breaker, but this also ties into the second part of the game where the mechanics and the AI and the bugs kind of just all work together to tie you down. All of these would have been fine in isolation, but all of these issues compound to make for a very clunky game. Once again, to state, this game is obviously designed to be a mil sim, a simulation of military tactics, a realistic room clearer, whatever. But the tools in this game are honestly in contradiction to these rules, and I don't know if it's the developer not understanding how tactics are done, or the gameplay is just not fully fleshed out properly. But right now, there are rules that limit the player, which aren't realistic when they should be, and then there are some things that are just ludicrously realistic when they should be compromised to make good gameplay, because, you know, these aren't realistic rules. As in, some things just don't translate from real life to video games. Okay, what do I mean? First of all, the tools that you're given are just too weak and don't make sense in the 0-hour sandbox. And you don't really want to use them unless you're just role-playing. The camera tool doesn't make sense on 95% of entries, when most levels are made up from floor plans that just don't exist in real life, with upwards of 5 to 6 entry points to a single room back to back and just an ass ton of furniture in the way. It's just not worth your while because you're only going to see about 20% of the room. People in the middle of the room aren't the things that kill you in this game, we'll just say. The grenade, no, it just doesn't make sense in this game. There's too many hostages and it's clunky. Flashbang, maybe, but you don't get enough of them, even though most SWAT dudes are carrying 3 to 4 of these things. Breaching charges. You can defeat all doors silently. Why are you using a breaching charge? This is just a great way to let the oblivious AI actually know you're coming. There's no doors you can't defeat, so why is this in the game? The night vision goggles. This tool is ludicrous. It is realistic that in a nighttime dominated game, night vision would be utilized heavily. But realistically, in real life, night visions have terrible field of view, about 40%, terrible depth of field, as in most things are blurry and only one thing is not blurry. It's just a very claustrophobic experience to use night vision in a close quarters environment. And before you say panos, no, you can see the night vision they're using. They're like PVS 31s or something. However, in the game, night vision is actually so good, it just gives you a basically full, crystal clear field of view, no real life limitations. You end up in a situation where there's no reason not to use night vision. Go in, kill the power, turn on the night vision, go to town. Right? There's no dynamic here because you basically always bring night vision. There's no reason not to have it, especially since this tool is so good compared to all the other ones. The second issue, this game is built around clearing rooms. The levels are obviously designed to be semi-unrealistic or just multi-bajillionaire houses. But these rooms are not normal rooms. They're just compounding rooms, tons of center fed, left fed, connected, L corners, whatever. All of this stuff. And it's designed to be a room clearing simulator, essentially. But it's like the developers either don't understand real room clearing, and judging by the reviews, neither do most of the player base, or the mechanics are just not properly fleshed out. Regardless, right now, when you clear a room, it's excruciating. When you clear a room in real life, it is a fucking explosive endeavor. You go in, once you commit to the breach, and it's a dynamic breach, you go in hard, fast, and you use violence of action to move into that room, secure points of domination, and to basically flow, right? A 2 to 3 man stack can reasonably get through a door in less than a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds if you're kind of running it slow. But in this game, there is no flow. The characters are ludicrously slow. We're talking crawl speed. You can't do this effectively. There is a sprint mechanic, but it lowers your weapon, thus you can't really flow into a room with your rifle at the high ready or like almost at your sightline. When you clear in this room using standard tactics, you'll find you'll come in through the room, push to your point of domination, collapse your field of fire, shoot a guy, and you found you haven't actually moved far enough out of the doorway to let your dude either clear their line of fire, or hilariously sometimes if it's a hallway, you haven't even let the guy past you, so he can't even go into his point of domination, and you both are now stuck in the fatal funnel. Good shit. You simply can't move fast enough in this game to properly clear obstacles and challenges and problems, as you call them, for room clearing. However, fortunately, 80% of the time the AI will let you walk in at 1/5 speed and shoot them because they're terrible. But then every once in a while, for some reason, that AI in that specific room will be alerted, and they will track you as you come into the room and blap you, and you only have about half a second to react. If you were moving fast, you could reasonably get them. But because you're moving so slow, and you're basically coin flipping that the first person you see is on your side because your number 2 man can't get through the door fast enough to hit the other corner. Hopefully this wasn't too complicated because this does get into room clearing, but it's very excruciating in this game, which is weird because this is the whole premise of the game. In a similar vein, like this whole high port thing where you bring your rifle up because it's going to theoretically hit a wall is improperly implemented. I know games like Tarkov do this as well, but it's really frustrating because in real life you're very aware where your muzzle is and you're not going to be, muzzle checking walls constantly. And you can also bring your muzzle down right before you want it to come down. In a game, you don't have this clairvoyance, so to speak. You don't control your gun just kind of interacts with the environment. Thus, when you come around corners, you move so slowly, your gun actually doesn't come down fast enough a lot of times, or obstructs your vision because the door and stuff is in the way because you're moving so slow. You can't get your gun out of the door. So you end up in a situation where you can't shoot a guy, and it's super frustrating, blah, blah, blah. You get the deal. Okay. Finally, the guns in this game are in the exact opposite house. They're not very realistic. Thus, they actually missed an opportunity to make for a fun and dynamic gun environment with some creative liberties. Instead, you just get guns that are not realistic, but realistic enough that they're boring. What do I mean? Number 1, the shotgun is just not... It recoils like a blunderbuss, when in real life you can actually manhandle shotguns quite well. Or you can shoot probably 2 shots a second while staying on target. Here, the gun just recoils into the stratosphere, making it not fun to use, nor do you have any, ability to use non-lethals, which is like half the point of a shotgun. You can breach with it, but you're using this as a primary. A simple fix would be to use this as shotguns are used in real life, either as a non-lethal or chop the barrel, get rid of the stock, and then have it as your secondary gun. Get rid of your pistol, which are, as an aside, way too overpowered in this game. You can run a whole level with the pistol. But get rid of your pistol and use it as a breaching shotgun. And then make some doors unpickable, and boom, you've given the shotgun an actual niche. With all the rifles and the PDWs / machine pistols, I get variety as the spice of life, but these guns, as mentioned, are realistic enough to not have any differences, but unrealistic that there are no ability of them to kind of be unique. For example, the 308 gun, the Mark 17, the Scar Heavy. Why doesn't the 308 bullet have some unique properties? Why can't you shoot through small barriers, through like a fridge or whatever? Why can't you shoot through stuff with this gun? That would give it a really cool niche, and then make it so it can't have a suppressor because it would just be ludicrously long and you can't get through doorways or something. I don't know. For example, looking at the smaller guns, the suppressors currently are so ungodly overpowered, and the AI are already clueless, so you add the suppressor in, and half the time a dude will be in a different room, you'll shoot the room, and he'll come into the room and not even know a fight was going on, you'll shoot him and you'll get penalized. That's how oblivious they are and how good the suppressors are. In real life, suppressors are very, very loud, especially on rifles.
This might be too bright.
Which is not illustrated here. You can kill a guy in a room with a suppressed gun, and if no one's looking at him, they won't know he got shot. These are not subs or subsonic rounds, especially in the rifles. These are very obviously full-powered cartridges. However, with a little bit of realism, we can get some interesting aspects here. Why not take the MP5 SD, which is a gun that forces the 9mm round to be subsonic and suppressed, right? So it's super quiet, and make it the suppressed gun. So when you roll in, you can actually use this to kill sentries, so to speak, without alerting people. But because MP5 SDs are shooting subsonic 9mm, they're really bad at killing people. And if you have everyone run this thing, you're going to run out of ammo because you're having such inefficient gunfights. Then take the MP7 and make it slightly louder, such that people in other rooms can hear it, but not other floors, and have it work with that. And then have the 5.56 AR kind of, be a middle ground, and then the 308 just be, no point in suppressing it kind of thing. Right? So now we have an interesting dynamic because we're using realism. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities here, and the game touts itself, and all the reviews tout it as being this hyper-realistic thing, but it just seems to be missing a lot of the points, in my opinion. Okay, let's take a step back. I've already mentioned this, but as I said, there are very few games, actually maybe even no games, that fill this SWAT meets old Rainbow Six Tom Clancy vibe. And I want a game like that, and a lot of people seem to want a game like that. But this game has a long way to go to get to that point, hence my criticism, constructive, whatever you want to call it. Okay, that's been that. I'm going to end this now so I can go do something else. So comment, subscribe, whatever. It's up to you. I hope you enjoyed this video somewhat, and I'll see you guys around.